Welcome to the cash flow call. The plan here is to go live every Thursday at 9 a.m. and talk about cash flow under the broader heading of advisory services. And as accountants, we do for years we've done a lot of compliance work, and we're told in the accounting industry to do advisory services, but we're not frequently enough told what that looks like or how to do that. Right? We're told what to do. We're not told how, because a lot of the marketers don't want to tell you how because they want you to pay them to learn how. Well, I'm going to disrupt that, and I'm going to, yes, of course, I have a paid service where I teach you how and I go deep, but I'm also, for fun and for free, as I've always done, going to give you some thoughts and ideas each week on what that looks like, again, for fun and for free. So I want to start off this morning by talking about a simple way to look at cash flow and advisory services. If you want to provide advisory services, then that, of course, very literally means you need to advise your clients and not just do the accounting, bookkeeping, and tax work. So the question, of course, becomes, what does that advice look like? And I want to give you a simple example. I have a client right now who struggles with cash flow, and the guy makes a lot of money, but he struggles with cash flow. They earn big and they spend big, as is often the case. So I know that every month, right about now, right after the first of the month, his mortgage payment comes out, and then that payment is about $7,000, which means he needs to take a distribution out of the business to cover it. Right? And if I'm monitoring his financial information, and especially his cash flow, closely enough, I should be able to warn him when his balance in his business account is low. And I know that distribution will automatically transfer on the first or second, so my client needs time to react. And so telling him just before or after the fact is too late. I need to warn him well enough in advance, so that he can react, pull money from somewhere else if need be, to make sure it's covered. That's advisory services. That's giving him advice. That's warning him in advance before it's too late, giving him time to react and saying, hey, client, heads up, here's what's coming, right? A lot of the times we just, especially when we talk about compliance work, we're just doing the bookkeeping and then compiling the reports and sending it to him and said, here's what happened. It's all in the past now, right? And we're not actually giving them the warning. That's what advice looks like. It's telling somebody what they need to do ahead of time. Right? So I want to start off with that very, very simple premise, and understanding that's how you start with advisory services, is by giving clients advice in advance of when things happen, right? We talk way too much in this industry, in my opinion, of course, we talk way too much about very sophisticated things when what our clients need most often is much more practical. They need the advice. And it's true, some clients don't have the time nor want to see or read reports, or maybe it's fairer or more accurate to say they don't think they have the time or want to see or read the reports. They just want the advice. That might be true in some cases, but many of the ones I talk to do want to review and understand the data. I'm guessing that has a lot to do with the size of the business that we're talking about. When they get to a level where their business is much larger, then they probably don't have as much time to do the review with us as the outsourced CFO or accounting professional. And so they really just want maybe to have, like, I can spend the hour doing the review and then call them in for 15 minutes and just give them the advice and say, look, I've done the analysis. Here's what I see. Here's the bottom line, what we need to know, what's coming down the pike, so to speak. Right? So I still think, though, that that, like I said, they may perceive that they don't have the time nor want to see the reports and think they just want the advice. But many of the ones I talk to, again, do want to review and understand the data. So I think at the very least, it warrants asking them the question. Let them decide. Don't just assume they don't have the time or need or want to see it. At least ask them the question. Again, that's advisory services, is asking them point blank, where do you need the most help? When I go into the doctor's office, the doctor's going to ask me, where does it hurt, right? We have to be financial doctors for our clients and ask them point blank, where does it hurt? Where are you struggling the most? How can I help, right? Those are the questions we need to start off asking. All too often, I think we go in there assuming we know what they need and where they need the help. And we don't even realize it until often it's too late and the client's already frustrated, but we just right out the gate go way off course because we're helping the client with things we think they need help with, but we haven't stopped to actually take the cotton out of our mouths and put it in or out of our ears rather, and put it in our mouths and actually listen and let the client tell us what they think they need. And sometimes it's true that the clients don't necessarily understand everything exactly, what they need, right? So there has to be a balance there. But again, I think at the very least it warrants asking them the question, or better yet, schedule the review with them. Even if they don't think they need it, just insist on it. Say, look, just once, I get it, you're busy, but do me a favor, just this once, I want to review things with you. If you still don't think you need it, fine, I'll do the review on my own, and I'll just give you the Reader's Digest version and give you the advice that I think you need to have, based on what I think you need to know about what decisions need to be made for your business, right? The truth is, from every major, sort of, how do I put this? From every major business influencer that I've ever listened to, one of the key things they say is that the owner of the business needs to know their numbers. So it's a little strange to me that anybody would say, oh, they don't have time, they don't need to know, they just want the advice. But I've heard it, so I'm addressing it. Again, I think it doesn't give the client enough credit when we take that attitude. So schedule the review with them. It has been my very consistent experience that even with clients who are reluctant about reviewing and analyzing the data with me, when they do, in the end, they really appreciate the review. And in short order, they usually say things like, I don't know how anyone could manage their business without this. Okay, that's been my experience, and I've been doing this for a few minutes. Next, stop with all the dashboard tools. I know we love to talk about them. I know we love to look at these fancy tools that create these pretty graphs and charts, and it's overkill. You don't need it. That's where I do agree that we're wasting ours and the client's time with a lot of this stuff. And most people are never going to look at it, or even if they do look at it, they're either not going to understand it, or they're going to be too proud to say they don't understand it. And bottom line, it's not going to prove to be useful for anyone. It's going to satisfy us in some way, maybe, if we're kind of blind to what I'm talking about right here, right now, that we think we're doing this great service for them when really we're doing nothing for them. If all we're doing is throwing some pretty graphs and dashboards at them without doing the follow-up analysis. But here's the thing. When we throw these dashboards up at these people, we're often giving them way more information than they need or want, right? And so I'm going to make it real simple. This is what I talk about in the Bulletproof CFO with all of the people who have now come into that program. We have two main numbers we need to look at and get intimately acquainted with. All right, two main numbers. And you're not going to, the funny thing is, I don't think you're going to see any of these represented in any of these dashboard tools. You might kind of see it as sort of a thing that, of course, you would have it, but you see very little emphasis on it when I think all the emphasis should be on these two numbers. So if you're taking notes, take them now. Two items, cash in the bank and net sales for the last 30 days, right? The average sales over the last 30 days. First of all, sales are going to drive cash in the bank, hopefully, right? Because hopefully we're not having to take money out of our own pockets and put it into the business, and hopefully we're not having to borrow money to put into the business. If we are because the business is new or whatever the case is, that's fine. We need to understand that. But what we most importantly need to understand is the cash that's in the bank, especially where the cash is coming from operations, and what level that needs to be at all times in order for us to know that at this level, all the operating working capital needs are covered, right? We have to get intimately acquainted with what that number is. How much money do we need to maintain in the bank at all times? So, of course, as money is flowing in and out, this is the balance that needs to be maintained while we're paying bills, while we're receiving money from customers, in order to know that everything's covered. Once we get a sense of what that number really is, then we also want to get a sense of what the average sales is for the last 30 days, because we know that the sales are going to ultimately flow into that cash balance. So these are two numbers that might be very different from one another, but that are very much tied in together. And if we can get an intimate understanding of where these numbers need to be, then we can start getting a very important metric. This is the dashboard that we need, right? How much gas is in the tank and how fast am I going? Right? How much cash is in the bank and how much money am I bringing in average in the last 30 days? If we see those numbers dipping, we know we have to take action. We know we have to do something about it. That's very easy to monitor and analyze as opposed to trying to monitor 6 or 8 different ratios. So we focus on these two numbers. And yes, you can bring in ratios into the mix, but not too many. 1 or 2, maybe in addition to these two. And those should be chosen very carefully based on a deep analysis of what the company's objectives are. right? If I'm really looking to aggressively grow the company, if I'm new, then I probably want to look at growth ratios. If I'm a company that's already kind of scaled and I'm looking to scale further and get more efficient, then it's efficiency ratios. In other words, there's different ratios that we look at based on different objectives, right? So that's how those should be chosen. But before we even think about ratios, we need to get those two numbers in line. Cash in the bank needed to cover operating costs and average sales for the last 30 days. Once we get those numbers down, the other thing we can start doing is when that cash balance breaks through above where it needs to be at a minimum, and especially after like payroll has come out, which is usually our biggest expense. If payroll just came out, net pay and taxes, and my cash is still at the top end or even over the threshold in terms, usually you're going to define a range of where it needs to be. If it's over that threshold, now I can start sweeping money out into a permanent savings money market type account, right? So that's what we want to analyze. And by the way, this is the advisory services. We can do the work. We can analyze, even if you're looking at their stuff just once a week, in 3 seconds, you can look at their stuff, maybe more than 3 seconds, but in very short time, once a week, you can go in and update a little schedule that analyzes what their cash balance is day to day and analyzes what their average sales is over the last 30 days. In Bulletproof CFO, I've created a template that makes it really easy. You just key numbers in. It takes 5 minutes to update once a week. And then you can start to get a picture of where those numbers need to be. Now, if you can focus on these two numbers and get an understanding of the range they sit in versus what is needed at a minimum to cover all working capital needs, then the cash flow strategy gets very simple. And remember one important premise, and I talked about this a lot in a recent Friday Zoom that I did. One important premise, that sales solve most problems. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Sales solve most problems. I got that from a webinar I sat in on that Gene Marks did with 3 business owners that obviously he regarded as people who had done really well during COVID, where businesses are squeezed. And that was one of the things that I got out of that webinar. Actually, it was a side conversation I had with one of the panelists who was on his webinar, after the fact. We corresponded for a bit. And that was one thing that she had said to me was that sales solve most problems. And she's 100% right. Right? If I bring in whatever problems I'm having, especially where cash flow is concerned, the sales are going to solve it, right? Like I said earlier, I hopefully don't have to keep infusing my own money or getting help from others by way of loans or investments, right? We want cash flows coming from operations, and that means sales, right? So sales are going to solve most problems. If I can boost sales, then that's going to give me the sales are going to feed into the bank account, and that's going to give me the cash flow I need to cover my expenses, to pay off and get rid of any debt that I have, everything kind of stems from there. So sales solve most problems. So if we can get that sales number going and we can keep the cash balance where it needs to be, which is largely, if not entirely driven by sales, then all the fancy ratios will take care of themselves, right? We'll have the liquidity that we really need, and then some, if anything. So if I know that, let's say 30,000 in average monthly sales is my comfort zone, and now I'm consistently doing well over 40,000 in sales over the last 30 days, then I know I'm in good shape. And if I know that typically my bank account needs to have, I'm just using examples here, let's say 20,000 to cover all working capital needs, and I'm operating with 40,000 in the bank, then I'm in good shape. And in a scenario like that, I'd probably consider, make sure it's not there just sort of temporarily because I got a loan or some infusion of cash other than by sales. And as long as I feel comfortable that that's the case, then based on that scenario I just gave you, bank account needs to have 20K and I'm operating with 40K, I would say take at least 10K out of that and sweep it into a money market account or some kind of savings that's, out of the way. Okay. When one or both of the numbers dip, then I need a closer look. Okay, when my sales are up and my cash is over 40K and I only need 20K, generally speaking, if my payroll has just come out, then it's time to sweep 10K to a money market or some kind of savings. This is how we build cash reserves, and this is how, as accountants and bookkeepers, we can add tremendous value for our clients, having our eyes on that kind of a process and analysis, right? And this is what I'm teaching in Bulletproof CFO. I'm teaching you how to create this process, right? That's what advisory services to me are all about. It's much simpler than we all think. It's much simpler than we perceive. It's just a lot easier than we think. It's not this magic thing. It's actually taking a look at the numbers and coming up with a process like the one I just described for how we can properly advise the client and say, this is what we need to do, or this is when we're in trouble. We need to do something to boost sales because the net 30-day sales number is dropping. right? If we see that happening, then we should do something. We should run a promo, put out a coupon code. Obviously, with every business, it's going to be a little different depending on the kind of business, but that should be our trigger that it's time to do something to bring in some extra sales, that we need to pay a little extra attention. Of course, we should always be trying to increase sales, but this is where we can look ahead for our clients and say, in particular right now, we need to put some focus on this, because if we don't turn this trend around, then we could be headed for trouble. And obviously, that's also why it's really good to build up what most businesses don't have these days, which is a nice cash reserve. And that's another thing I learned, and I'll end on this note. That a mentor of mine, it was actually a client of mine, but he was a very smart guy, and he did very well for himself. And one of the pieces of advice that he gave me many years ago was, he said, Seth, just make sure you always have access to cash. The best form of access to cash is your own, but the second best is, just in his case, I think what he was referring to is he had access to lines of credit and that sort of thing. He was a real estate guy, but I think really what he was referring to, he didn't say this explicitly, it's just what I inferred from what he did say, is that he had a group of people that he knew in his business world who, when an opportunity came along, would happily invest with him into anything, because they trusted him and they knew that he was very smart about finding a property and making sure that it was sort of undervalued, so that there would be tremendous value in investing in a property. And that's the kind of guy he was, and people knew and trusted him to be that guy. So always have access to cash. And again, the best way is to build a cash reserve. And what I've just gone over with you is the exact strategy for exactly how to do that. You got to get those two numbers down: cash in the bank, average sales last 30 days, and then you got to monitor them so that you can look for the opportunities to sweep money out and start building that cash reserve. As always, if you have any questions, please post your comments below while you're watching this. If any of you are interested, of course, in the Bulletproof CFO, then please reach out and let me know. Comment in the comments and I will DM you with a link. We can schedule a 15-minute call, see if it makes sense, if it's a good fit. If we agree that it does, then we'll do a 1-hour strategy call where I'll take a close look with you at your accounting or bookkeeping practice, and I'll go over the whole plan with you for what the Bulletproof CFO is all about, and how my goal there is to help you build and scale a high ticket offer in the form of your own CFO services that you can provide to your clients. I have the course built now. I'm still adding lessons to it, but it's substantially built. We have one-on-one, we have group calls. There's a lot of resources I'm giving you for how you can build this side of your business. And unlike, as far as I can tell, any of the other programs out there that, from what I can tell, just teach you the marketing, I'm actually teaching you the technical skills for how to do this, how to build the projections, how to actually do it in spreadsheets before you go into an app. And then we're going to use a product called Giraffe to develop the projections, on a long-term basis. But we need to make sure you understand you have a solid foundation in it before you start using the app, so that you really understand what's going on while you're using that app. So I look forward to getting your comments. I hope to hear from you soon. Check back with me next week on Thursday at 9 a.m. I'll go live. Hopefully everything will work, so it won't be 10 minutes late. And also Monday nights at 6 p.m., we're doing another one called Monday Night Madness. So that's another Facebook Live Monday nights at 6 Pacific. That's my time zone where I'm at. So that would be 9 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully that's not too late for some of you on the East Coast. I'm an early riser. 9 p.m. starts to get a little late for me. But I think most of you are more night owls than early birds like I am. So anyway, and eventually I'll start putting the replays of these up somewhere. I haven't honestly quite figured out where I'm going to do that just yet. So I'll see you all tomorrow morning, Friday morning, for the Zoom In with Seth, David, and friends. We have a great topic. I'm going to be showing you why I love Kajabi so much, insofar as all of the different processes that it has integrated into one place for me. So a lot of people think Kajabi is expensive. I think it's not that expensive, because it saves me the cost and trouble of dealing with other apps. I consolidated lots of processes there. So look forward to hopefully seeing you tomorrow morning on the Zoom at 8 a.m. Pacific. I'll talk to you all soon.